What's up, nerds? It's Havoc, and I've got a different kind of video for you guys today. We're gonna put together a battle group tier list for each of the factions, all the factions. You can kind of see here, we've got UK, US, the Deutsches Afrikakorps, and the Wehrmacht. I thought, following up kind of from my how-to videos for the new battle groups for each faction, I do plan to do additional how-tos for each battle group, or, well, I'm not going to do every battle group, and I was going to partly explain why in this video. So what I'm going to start with, I think just because we've got a lot of new players, we've got a lot of returning players as well, I get a lot of questions about like, hey, what's new, what's different, can I use this strategy, can I use that strategy? I just want to provide a brief overview of a tier list of the different battle groups for each faction. Then what I'm most likely going to focus on in upcoming videos are the strongest strategic choices or options for each faction. I may get to the lower tier ones, or, of course, like if they get significant buffs or there's meta change and they get some updates, like I will obviously, do some updates and bring those in as well. But I just wanted to kind of provide an overview and a bit of perspective for everybody. Share a few bullet points about each battle group and what it's really good at. And then I think we'll follow with, some additional how-to guides for the strongest ones, like I mentioned. So I know the icons won't be super familiar to everybody that's like relatively new to the game, or even if you're returning, like they may not be super familiar. I will name these as I go through them. I'll talk about their strengths, and then kind of I'll provide a quick summary at the end of the list. And then, I will commit to some battle group videos for you guys upcoming. So starting with UKF, we have Aaron C. Aaron C in its current state depends on what kind of game mode you're playing. For team games, I would put this in excellent. The excellent part of it comes from the late game abilities that you get access to with the Hawker runs, the incendiary bombing run, naval bombardment, assault flares, all super strong late game abilities that can be used all over a very large map, and either do a ton of damage or just provide a ton of great utility to your team. On top of that, you also have, in the early game, you have access to the constructible supply caches that do not require an engineer and are provided at a discount. This can create a massive resource advantage for your team in the early game that's going to scale and carry through into the late game. So for the team games, this battle group is excellent. Everything kind of in between that I left out, the Commandos, the Centaur, not really in a great state right now, and for that reason, if this is a 1v1 situation, I'm putting this at an average or bad battle group selection. This is actually not in my 1v1 loadout for the reasons I described. The units in it are not in an amazing place right now, but the abilities and the economic benefits are exceptional. So for now, I'll just leave this in excellent because I know a good chunk of the audience, mainly team game players, but just know that if you're thinking about 1v1s, honestly, I wouldn't use this. I wouldn't. That brings us to Indian Artillery. Indian Artillery provides some great infantry buffs, great economic benefits on the infantry side, and then some great benefits to artillery usage throughout the game, and some great artillery options as well. Currently, I'm going to put this in good in pretty much most circumstances, both 1v1 and team games. Reason being, in 1v1, volunteer infantry, which is at the end of the tree on the right-hand side, provides a manpower discount to reinforcements as well as a reduction in recoup speed, or like reinforcement speed. This gives you a great deal of map presence in the late game, and really helps your manpower economy, which is a big part of what makes this battle group so strong. Also, access to the Gurkhas. Gurkha is kind of what I describe as like a super line unit. It's basically the next best thing to German stormtroopers or Stoßtruppen. With their Bren guns. Tommy guns are okay. They're much more situational. Bren gun is pretty much universally the better choice, especially on big team game maps. But in 1v1 situations as well, I mostly pick the Bren gun unless I'm playing on an urban map, or I'm playing on a map where I'm planning to use them primarily for like flanking or ambushes, those kinds of things. The BL5 or the Base Leveler 5, I love that acronym from from Tightrope. The BL5 is a good, solid choice for tearing down defenses, especially playing against Coastal Battlegroup, but I honestly wouldn't really recommend it outside of that. But the artillery saturation, which is on the right side of the first tree, is excellent for your bishops throughout the game. It's just going to allow you to continue to pepper your opponent with artillery shells. So I'm putting this in the good category. Armored Battle Group. I think in this current state, it's good. It saw some significant changes with the Crusader AA moving from a call-in unit to a constructible unit in Tier 4. This thing's actually, like, the Crusader AA is quite strong now. But I think the real appeal of this battle group now is in the team repair stations, or the forward repair assemblies, I believe they're called specifically, that provide great AoE repairs to your opponent, to your teammates in their vehicles. They have some great late game abilities with the recon, target recon, and aerial artillery barrage. What are those called specifically? I believe they are called Recon Artillery. Yes, this is the plane flying in a circle, dropping shells on things. And Designate Targets. Both of these abilities are exceptional in the late game. They're super, super good. Also, you know, access to cheap sappers is very nice. Radio Net is a great late game ability. And the AA Crusader, like I mentioned, even though this thing got moved to a constructible unit, it's still quite powerful. I don't see myself really using this over the Crusader, but it's pretty good. And then you get access to the new Black Prince, which is an exceptional tank hunter now. It's immune to shocks, which is fantastic. Crew shock, which means like you can't be double snared into engine damage anymore with the Black Prince unless you're below 50% health. It's really nice. The Prince also has a great new Vet 1 ability that restores a large portion of health, that allows you to spend much more time up with your Prince. Churchills, I think they're in a pretty good state. I still kind of see these pretty similar to the Matildas. There's a lot of counters to the heavy tanks right now. What I like about the Prince is that it's very equipped to deal with some of the other German heavies, like the KT, Tiger, the Panther tanks. This thing is a great frontliner to deal with those, and so for that reason, you know, is useful choice inside the heavy armored battle. So overall, I put the heavy armor battle group into the good category. Moving on to Canadians, I think Canadians are excellent right now. The early options between the healing on decapture or the reduced ability cost on decapture is excellent, provides great momentum. Canadians provide an excellent anti-dive tool with AT, and they also have exceptional infantry scaling, much like a lot of the UKF roster. The Churchill Croc is pretty good. I think probably out of all the heavy tanks, it's probably the most lackluster at the moment. I think it's just outshined by a lot of the other heavies. But it is a solid frontline unit and very good in use with the Canadians in the late game. The Canadians can cover it very well with the Piat. Again, also, you know, some great late game abilities in the Smoke Barrage specifically for the Canadians. It really allows you to set up for some fantastic attacks, especially against like heavily armored German forces. It allows you to kind of close those gaps and take away the advantage that they would normally have with frontal armor, and do some excellent dives with Crusaders. So Canadians overall excellent in both a 1v1 and team game context. Aussies also in the excellent category in both 1v1s and team games. Access to over repair has exceptional benefits for yourself and your teammates in various game sizes. Australian light troops are probably the best scaling line unit in the game. Even better than sections because they have some amazing Vet 3 options like the snipe ability that they come with. They get speed, extra health, vision again with the scopes that they can get. Aussies are and also the ability to build defenses is super valuable on your line units, especially in the late game. On top of that, you also have access to the 2-pounder and then the emplacements. I'm usually going for the 2-pounder in a 1v1 setting. In team games, I can see them probably getting overwhelmed or scooped up pretty easily, so maybe that's not the best choice for team games. But it is great if you're facing up against 259s or other light armor from your opponent. The Vet 1 stun ability on the 2-pounder is exceptional as well. And of course, you have access to the late game archer. The artillery barrage, I'm not a huge fan of personally. I know some people like to use it. I never really get great value out of it, to be honest. So I prefer to save my munitions for the sniping of my lights. And I'm going for the archer instead, which is a great late game anti-heavy TD. And it got some nice buffs recently with being able to fire on the move and a little bit more mobility, a bit cheaper. So this is also a great late game vehicle to supplement your other armored forces as you chaos. Moving on to US, starting with Ranger Battle Group. Right now, I'm going to put this at average. The howitzers are not in a great place. This is the main reason for this, as far as I can tell. They're very easy to counter. A single Stuka can completely destroy one of these American howitzers. And the idea is to kind of use them towards the front line as much as possible to make use of the auto fire. That's where you're going to get the most value. But they just don't work right now. They're just too easily countered, too easily killed. What I will say, there are some niche things in this battle group that are exceptional. The first one is the weapon, what is it called? The cache, the supply cache that is constructible. I'm actually just going to pull it up really quickly. Moving over to USF, in case you guys didn't know. Inside our advanced infantry, ammunition storage, that's what it's called. This is amazing with your teammates' artillery units, especially. Like if you have a teammate that's building bishops or BL5, this is just fantastic with that. It's going to allow way more uptime on the artillery. The artillery is going to be way more lethal as a result because of the continuous fire coming from that unit. So if you're ever going to go for this battle group, the ammunition storage has got to be one of the reasons. On top of that, infantry assault, not doing great, honestly. Rangers are the second best part of this battle group as far as I can tell at the moment. Rangers have exceptional scaling. There's really two circumstances that you're going to use them. One is early conversion in the early game. Try to build a quick bit of momentum on your opponent and get a great forward medical tent up. The second situation is you start with riflemen, you scale the riflemen to like Vet 2 or Vet 3, and then you convert them into just late game Terminators. Both of those options are fine, but they are very niche and they don't fill a lot of gaps in the American roster, and so for that reason I'm putting that battle group currently at average. Armored battle group. In a 1v1 context, this is OP. This has been OP since release. It's been busted for 2 years. In 1v1 specifically, and I don't know how or when Relic is gonna fix them, but the key benefits of Armored are as follows. Number one, access to instant Vet 1 on your vehicles is exceptional. It's easily the best choice. Assault Engineers are also very strong if you are I'm gonna say like probably above 1400 level player. You probably have the micro to use Assault Engineers properly. They provide a great deal of tempo. They're very beefy. They can beat a lot of the early game line units from the Axis factions like Grenadiers. And so they can be very good. And then, of course, there are just exceptional late game benefits to Armored Battle Group. The Easy 8 is the first thing that comes to mind. The Easy 8 is the best medium tank in the game. It's the only one that doesn't have a moving accuracy penalty. It has a great AoE profile, lots of health, great machine gun damage, excellent penetration, access to HVAP. I could go on. It's just the be-all, end-all of medium tanks in this game as far as I'm concerned. And you can get them for very cheap as a result of Allied War Machine, which provides a heavy discount on the manpower side of American vehicles. The U.S. forces already have a very strong manpower economy, and this just adds to that even further. It can kind of exacerbate it. And as a result, we also see like very heavy motor pool plays working very well as a result because of the reduced manpower cost, access to Vet 1 for free, and then also the reduced sorry, I think we covered. And it makes light vehicles really spammable from motor pool. I actually think this battle group is the whole reason why motor pool is kind of in a mediocre place in general at the moment, because when it is used with armored, it becomes ridiculously oppressive. So Armored Battle Group easily hands down the best, easiest, most versatile, strongest 1v1 choice has been for. One day it'll change. We'll see. Then we have Airborne. Airborne, I think, in the current state is actually excellent for two reasons. Mainly, access to the recon, the supply drops, both airstrikes are exceptional in both the team game and a 1v1 setting. The Rocket Strike, especially, like Rocket Strike is a spell for a dead King Tiger. You cannot avoid this thing with the King Tiger. It comes in super fast. And as long as you're calling it in from the rear first, the airstrike is just going to completely delete whatever heavy tank it hits. So it's very, very strong. Paratroopers are also exceptional line units, especially in the late game against Axis. They get excellent damage reduction. They also have access to enhanced explosives, which can be very good. And they're excellent anchor and defensive units. Only when used with the LMGs. I've said this in another video where I use paratroopers. Do not get bazookas on the paratroopers. It's just not worth it. You're better off building a bazooka squad. Bazooka squads have better scaling for the bazooka specifically. Paratroopers do not. Paratrooper veterancy is geared towards survivability and lethality, and it's best used with the 1990. Recommend that. Spec Ops. I actually think Spec Ops is in an excellent place. This used to be easily the worst American battle group. But with the most recent buffs to the Whiz-Bang, the synergy it has with Mechanized Support Center and the ability to convert Whiz-Bangs into 76mm Shermans with the Vet 1 ability, this is in a really good place. The flares are also super valuable now that we're seeing a lot of cloaked machine guns. I mean, Axis have cloaked everything. They've got cloaked machine guns, Jaegers, packs, what have you. The flares are excellent for that, and they're super cheap, and also provide a little bit of extra accuracy against your opponent. So, it's very, very good. The Loiter is very good. Anti-infantry Loiter is a great choice. SSFs, I feel like they perform well as a unit. It's a good unit. I just think it's a little bit too expensive at the moment. And people are having a hard time probably getting to them by the time that they kind of would be the most useful as a result of their cost. But overall, I think this battle group is in a pretty excellent state all around. It fills a lot of the gaps with the American roster. Access to the Whiz-Bang. The Americans don't really have great rocket artillery outside of the Whiz-Bang. Honestly, don't have great artillery in general at the moment because of some of the counters that I talked about. Battle group. But overall, I think this battle group's in a very good place. This takes us to heavy weapons. Heavy weapons, I'm going to say is also excellent. I was about to put it in OP. It's not quite as good as Armored. You know, I'm actually going to put it in OP, and I'll say why. The Pershing is just an absolute menace. The Pershing is the best tank in the game, period. Better than the Tiger, better than the KT, better than the Panther. Like, 1v1, this thing will beat anything. Anything. It has an excellent anti-infantry damage profile, exceptional mobility. Like, nothing can catch this thing, and nothing can escape it. You could be really decisive with how you use this. You can poke away at long range, or you could commit and kill opponents with piercing shots, stun rounds. The Pershing is just exceptional. Combine that with exchangeable part half tracks, you get great tempo from those. It allows you to invest further in your infantry, and then if you're complementing your composition well with like machine guns, then getting some of the benefits of the left side of the tree that give like the extra man, as well as like rapid reposition or gallant stand, all of those synergize very well with the machine gun teams. And or the big AT gun, which I'm getting less often. I think it's a little more situational and easy to counter considering how much great artillery the Axis have. So I'm going Pershing more often for that reason. But like the Pershing really carries this battle group like in it. That's it for USF. OP, you know, this really stands out as OP. But this is I think kind of just on the cusp. Armored support. Armored support, I think, is good right now. This would be excellent, maybe OP, but the Stuka Loiter just got nerfed so hard, it's borderline useless now. It's just not a good use of munitions. This battle group has other things that are useful in it. The Command P4 is very good. Flam P3 is pretty good. Panzerstorm is a great ability. The Stuka Dive Bomb is still quite good. But overall, like, I think it doesn't quite provide augments in the way that DAC needs to be the best choice for Battle Group, whether in 1v1 or in team games. So that's, I'll leave it at that. Espionage. Espionage for DAC. This is a excellent battle group in both a 1v1 and a team game context. The burn damage from AT guns, the ambush bonuses that your infantry get, both very good. I will say the late game abilities are kind of lackluster. Operation Scorpion, Disruption Operation, Firestorm, kind of mediocre compared to some of the other late game ability options, but it's more than made up for the fact just through the access to camouflage, the Funk Wagons having access to Teller mines. The Goliath, I think, is a real, like, kind of an unfortunate point for this battle group. I just still feel like the Goliath is way too clunky to maneuver with, and difficult to use to get really good use out of. So I'd like to see that be made better, but overall, like, battle group is still excellent in both. Bersaglieri battle group, I think this borders on OP, but is probably, now, you know, I'm going to say it's OP. Reason being, Bersaglieri provide incredible tempo, especially in a 1v1 game. They are very cheap. They're effective at long range. They scale decently, not fantastically, but decently. I think by around Vet 2, they start to lose to most of the Allied main lines, but really, like, you're taking the most advantage of these guys in the early game by their capture power, access to the LMGs, and then great tempo through the 6-man upgrade. Access to Karos just really fills the gap in DAC's mid-game between the Flak Veerling, which is the kind of the best DAC choice at the moment, and their tier 3 vehicles. The Karo kind of just fills every unfortunate gap in between there, and is a great unit to continue to build that tempo with. And then you have access to some fantastic late game options between the light vehicle discount, which can be great for building Stukas or tier 2.5 vehicles, and the artillery barrage that just completely levels anything that is remaining in an area that it's called in. It's a great late game option. Oh, by the way, don't use the strafing run. The strafing run is terrible. It's a waste of munitions. It hardly does any damage. You're way better off saving your munitions for the... on screen really quick. The strafing run, it's very expensive. It's about 120 munitions, and it's just not worth it. It's just not... The strafing run is not worth it. It doesn't do enough damage. It's expensive. You're way better off saving for artillery cover than using the strafing run. I think Bersaglieri, generally the better choice than the right side of the tree. If you're not using Bersaglieri, I probably wouldn't be going Italian combined. Food for thought there as well. Beyond that, we've got Italian infantry. I think Italian infantry is now good. It's not great. It used to be a little bit broken, literally, because there were some bugs with the bunkers that you could build. I think the bunkers are okay now. There are some still pretty good options in here. Tellers used to be the main draw of this battle group, but since introducing the Regal mines with Panzerjäger Command and tellers through the Funkwagon and Battlefield Espionage, it's not that exciting anymore coming from Italian infantry. Guastatoria are a pretty lackluster unit right now. Their anti-infantry performance is pretty mediocre, including even if you incorporate the buffs from the last patch. They're just very expensive, very difficult to use them in an open map. They do get some decent damage reduction, but like overall, I just think you're better off building other backline. Speaking, Canone is pretty good, but it's really outshined by the Stuka at the moment, which is available as a non-doctrinal choice or non-battle group choice. So I'm not typically using the Canone very much from this battle group. And defensive positions is pretty good, but, you know, as DAC, you're not really using that many team weapons relative to vehicles. I mean, if you're going to use a lot of team weapons, you may as well kind of like... Instead, they have better team weapons. Speaking, better machine guns, better AT guns than the DAC do. So it's a kind of a weird synergy, but it can be pretty good with this battle group and prepared positions. That's probably one of the strong points. And then the L640s, I think it's a pretty highly underrated unit. They are very fragile, but they come out crazy early, and the flamethrowers on them are just devastating. So if you can protect them well and get them vetted up, the two of them can be really great at just like picking up, scooping up, and wiping infantry units in the lane. That takes us to Panzerjäger Command, the last DAC battle group. I think this borders on OP, so I'm going to put it up there since we've got quite a few things in excellent already. I mean, I could say a lot about this battle group, but really, you know, I've been asking for a Shrek on the Jaeger squad for basically since release. And now we have that in this battle group. They are an exceptional unit. The ambush grenades make them even better. Panzerjägers have incredible scaling with their veterancy and can make them super, super powerful with the addition of Shreks. You also have access to amazing mines in the Regal mine that will one-shot any light vehicle, and S-mines that will just completely tear apart infantry squads for relatively cheap mission side. And then you also have great 1v1 options like the prepared position. I think it's called entrenchment, which gives you access to combined arms in cover and friendly territory, which is great in 1v1 situations. Early warning is okay, probably better for team games, and you would only really want to coordinate with your team and make sure one person is picking. But yeah, overall, like this battle group, amazing. Anti-tank Overwatch is very good. Butterfly bombs, honestly, I think they're more annoying than anything, but still, you know, not a bad choice. The elephant kind of outshined a little bit by the tiger, to be honest. The cruise shock tactics ability is also very good. I learned that you can use it on pretty much any unit that has a cannon, including Panzerjägers. And you could really like lock down your opponent's vehicles and kill them with it, which is very nice. Like I said, elephant kind of outshined by the tiger at the moment. I had a weird game earlier this week where I was using the elephant. I actually might cast that. Maybe we'll do a where I was actually trying to use the elephant against. Yeah, kind of a weird experience. I'd probably lean more towards the tiger, but the anti-tank Overwatch is exceptional. Probably great in a team game as well. So that kind of does it for DAC. We've also got Luftwaffe. Luftwaffe used to be excellent, maybe bordering on OP, but since the nerfs to the loiter, I'm just going to put it in good. Fallschirmjägers are still, they're a good unit, but I think they're very niche and people don't really know how to use them. You need to be using Fallschirmjäger. I actually have a great video. I'll probably put it in the description of playing Reekly on Semwa with Fallschirmjägers. And I think that's kind of like the masterclass of how to properly use them. Really, you just want to like ambush bonus, do a bunch of damage, then back away and use the out of combat heal to set up for another ambush. That's really the way that you want to use that unit more than anything. And if you do that, you build up a great economic advantage. They also have access to the Luftwaffe reserves, which give you the manpower discount on reinforcements in the late game, which is also very good. Not as good as volunteer infantry from our friends, the Indian Artillery Battle Group, but still a very good choice. I think what would make this better is I would like to see the emplacements packaged together. So put the 88 in with the other Flak 38 and the other defenses so that you'll see that built more often and often. And then you also have the Fallschirm Pioneer, great tempo unit, good utility, obviously pretty good scaling as well for an engineer unit throughout the game. So Luftwaffe, you know, in a decent place, but since the nerfs to the loiter, they really lost their late game options. And I think that's really the glaring. Next, we have Mechanized. Mechanized, I'm going to put in excellent. Mechanized has probably the most diverse armored options for Wehrmacht in the mid-game. Access to the Wesp, the 8-Rad, and the Stug D with the Stostrip and Colin, all excellent choices. Also some very powerful late-game abilities with zeroing artillery and some great options in late game abilities for the mechanized battle group. There it is, mechanized assault and zeroing artillery. Scopes are excellent in the early game, and mobile repair stations. If you can keep your 221 or your 251 alive, these are also very good to have around. They provide great utility for your late game with the vehicles. Honestly, what I love, 221 combined with the radio antenna upgrade for late game recon, and then you also have like a repair station around it. It's just so much utility wrapped up into one. Very, very good. Same with like a medical 251, also very good with mobile repair stations. But if you don't have that, you can pivot into spotting scopes, which is great on any and all of your vehicles throughout the game. Would not recommend going Stostrip and assault package. This pretty much defeats the purpose of the unit at the moment. They're much better at long. If you like Stostrip and assault package, just play with PG. The Wesp is still in a decent place. Not great since they nerfed the scatter on it, but it was really necessary. Like it was. So the Wesp, you know, in a decent place. Overall, I think that puts Mech in an excellent position, whether you're a team game player or 1v1. Next up, we've got Terror. Terror we've talked about pretty extensively, easily in the OP category. Currently, the MG42 Cloak is what's pushing this over the edge at the moment. I think all the other components in the battle group, the V1 is also on the OP side because it's lacking enough audio cues, I think, to be very readable for opponents. I have trouble hearing it a lot in a busy team game, especially. I can imagine you guys are probably experiencing the same thing. I'd like to see the audio cues for this be a little bit louder. And I think the way to fix the machine guns is probably only to give them the camo when they are set up, because the real problem right now is being able to creep up and cover and cloak and then get advantage of the ambush bonus. I like the ambush bonus. I want to keep it. I just think players should have to be more thoughtful and intentional it than kind of just like using it reactively. All the other abilities in this battle group are very, very strong. It would be in the excellent category otherwise. So overall, I'm going to put this. Breakthrough. Breakthrough is also excellent. I think, you know, honestly, actually, I'm going to put it in good. And the reason why I'm going to put it in good is because there are some niche things about it that make it excellent, and I don't want you guys to think it's the wrong thing. First, MP40 Grens are not very good. They don't scale very well. They're not good assault troops. They have very low health. Very easy to lose these guys. They used to be much stronger in some previous patches, but they got a handful of nerfs, and then line units got other buffs, and so they're really outshined by a lot of other things. If you really like assault troops, I think playing PGs is probably the way to go. But I recognize in this meta with current Wehrmacht tier 3, it can be difficult to do that because a lot of other tools that you're missing if you go for PGs. But the things that are great about this, the breakthrough ability, it's amazing. You know, 40 munitions and all your infantry can just vacuum up the map like crazy. They get crazy capture and decapture buffs. Access to the 251 call-in with the Stoßtruppen is great in a team game setting, whether you've gone for 2.5 or 3.5. Early access to Stoßtruppen is always exceptional. And then the ability to convert it into medical or a Stummel half-track is always great as well. And then, of course, on the right side of the tree, you have access to fast deploys, so quicker build times for your vehicles. I think it's better, generally speaking. The Opel Blitz truck is okay, maybe in a team game setting if you're really trying to emphasize like getting extra fuel from a already cached resource point. It's good, but otherwise, I'm not really using it too much. Fast deploy is much better. The Blitzkrieg ability is highly underrated. It should be used pretty much on any offensive push. The rate of fire bonus, as well as the making more difficult targets, making your vehicles more difficult to hit, can be the difference between a vehicle surviving the push and dying. And the rate of fire bonuses that they get are also amazing, especially when combined with backing Vet 1 buffs that the Panzer IVs give. But also really, really strong. And then, of course, you have access to the Tiger. Tiger is an amazing choice in the late game. The P4, Command P4 is a great crutch in the early game. If you're struggling, you can always call in the Command P4 as an anchor unit to help you out. But the Tiger is obviously kind of the prize you want to have your eye on when you're going for. And with that, it takes us to Coastals. Coastals have been left behind. They are not in a great place at the moment. They're very weak. The Coastal unit is pretty outshined by everything else. It's really difficult to get good usage out of these guys because all your opponent really needs to do is build artillery, and they're giving you a very difficult time. They don't really have any exceptional late game options. Officer got many nerfs that kind of put it into a place where it's just not going to be super useful anymore. So yeah, Coastal's in kind of a rough spot. I don't know, I'm really wary of saying like how this could be improved, because I just think like a lot of the time the playstyle of this battle group is super toxic. Yeah, I just think the Coastal's not in a great place. So, what's going to be coming up next from me? I'm probably going to focus primarily on a handful of battle groups for each faction. Probably less than 3 or sorry, I should say 3 or less for each. Probably focusing on the OP and excellent categories. I'll try to highlight and give you guys good variety in terms of games and game sizes as well. Like I'll try to get some team games in there and talk about the strengths of some of these battle groups in those specific contexts. But with that, more how-to guides to come. There's one specifically that you really want to see that you haven't seen yet. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Yeah, I think we'll leave it there. So more how-tos to come. Gonna focus on these upper categories at the moment. So if there's one you'd like to, that'll be it. Thanks, nerds. See ya. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And again, if there's anything else you'd like to see that you haven't seen from me yet, please feel free to join my Discord. Check me out.